Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys can see and hear me okay. You are very welcome to the first official episode of our new webinar series, Discover Your Future at DCU. Thank you very much for coming along. I hope today can be a very interesting session for those of you who are interested in pursuing a future in engineering, and specifically engineering at DCU. Before we get started and before I welcome our wonderful panel onto the call, I will draw your attention to the Q&A features that are at the bottom of your screen. So if something comes up that one of our speakers has mentioned and you would like more information on it, or if you just want to ask a question but anything to do with engineering, feel free to use that Q&A function and we will let our speakers know at the end of the session. So the purpose of this webinar is to provide you with some detail about not only the courses that DCU offer for undergrad engineering degrees, but also what the student experience is like, if there's any internships available, and also what life is like once you graduate and leave the university, because of course that is also very important. And we also want to give you as many different stories and voices and as many experiences as possible so that you guys can make a decision about where you might like to go to university. So that is why we have a wonderfully varied panel on today, people from loads of different walks of life, but who all have engineering in common. So what I'm going to do now is welcome them onto the call one by one, and I'll do a little introduction for each as we go on. So the first person that I'll bring on to promote to a panelist is Faith Dempsey, who is a current student of mechatronic engineering in DCU, and she is also one of our fantastic student ambassadors. Next up then, we are going to welcome Conor Myler onto the call, who is also, he's a previous student ambassador in DCU, but who has graduated from mechatronic engineering, and he is out working in industry at the minute. So feel free to turn on your camera, guys, turn on your microphone as soon as you come on. Next up, I'm going to welcome Lisa Ainsworth into the panel. Lisa is also an alumna of DCU. She graduated from electronic engineering, and she's currently the CEO and co-founder of New Wave Sensors. So she's going to tell us a little bit about where her engineering degree was able to bring her. And then last, but certainly not least, we are going to welcome Tanya Levingston, Dr. Tanya Levingston, onto the call, who is an associate professor in the School of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering in DCU. So at this stage, we should almost have all of our panelists on, and I invite you to unmute yourselves and turn on your cameras if you're able to do so, and let everyone see who you are.
Hey, Sinead, we can't actually start the video there.
Okay, let me see if I can change that for you. Let me change you to a co-host and see if that works any better. Fantastic. Hey, guys.
Hi. Hey. Sinead, it's still not working for me, but I'll try it again. It's Lisa here.
Hi, Lisa. I can see you now. I can see you perfectly, Lisa. How are things? Faith, Conor, all working well, and then Tanya is just loading up now.
Great.
Fantastic.
Hi, thanks.
Hi, everyone. How are you guys keeping?
We're all good. Thank you very much.
Good, good. Thank you very, very much for taking up the time on your Thursday evening. It's just about dinner time, I know, and we won't keep you too long today, but really appreciate that we have a fantastic attendance here already of students watching in live who I am sure are really excited to learn all about engineering in DCU. So I suppose to start off with, we might turn to Tanya first, as you are currently an academic in the School of Engineering. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the various courses that we have on offer in the university for a student today who's thinking of pursuing engineering in the future?
Yeah, great. Thanks very much for the introduction and for the chance to speak to all our interested students out there. So I'm a lecturer in the School of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering. And I'm actually a graduate from the program in Biomedical Engineering as well. So I've seen the program as a student and now from the side as a lecturer as well. So I know lots about the programs we offer in DCU. So at the moment, we have 5 different streams of engineering or courses in engineering. We have biomedical engineering, we have mechatronic engineering, electronic and computing engineering, mechanical and manufacturing engineering, and we have a new program which is called Sustainable Systems and Energy, and that's a new program that's taking entrance in this year for the first time. And then we have what's called our Common Entry into Engineering program as well. And the Common Entry into Engineering program, what that does is it allows students to try out engineering for the first year, and at the end of first year they then make the choice as to which program they want to pursue. So in our engineering programs, all students do the same subjects in first year. They do a common first year. So everybody does the same thing in first year. And then if you come in through the common entry route, you can then decide at the end of that first year which program you want to study.
Very good. So for a student who is watching today, Tanya, who's maybe going, okay, I haven't really done engineering in school, so they're thinking of common entry, or maybe they want to go into a specific stream. And would you be able to sum up maybe in a couple of sentences what kind of each stream is about and what they might be learning, just to maybe focus that attention on specific interests?
Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll talk maybe about the biomedical engineering program first. So in biomedical engineering, what we try to do is to combine areas of medicine and biomedics with the engineering discipline. So you would be applying engineering to problems that relate to the human body, to diseases, and to developing new treatments and devices that are used in treating patients with various different diseases. So it combines some modules from our School of Engineering and then also some modules from nursing and from science as well. So you'd study things like anatomy and physiology, as well as studying mechanics and biomechanics. And we have, so within the modules, you would be combining some of the mathematical skills and problem solving and applying it then to problems relating to the human body. Mechatronics then, so mechatronics is a combination of mechanical engineering and electronic engineering. So it combines those skills that you learn as a mechanical engineer, so looking at mechanical systems and analyzing mechanical systems, and then also an understanding of the electronics and electronic systems as well. And you'll see that a lot of devices that are out there at the moment, a lot of cars and all sorts of things that we use in our day-to-day life, they combine mechanics and electronics. So as things get more complex, there's more electronics involved in controlling mechanical systems. So that degree, it gives a good overview of both sides of mechanical and electronic engineering, and it really kind of tries to tailor people who want to work in that type of area. And it covers aspects of robotics and that sort of topics as well. So mechanical engineering, so we mentioned a little bit about mechanical engineering there already. So in mechanical engineering, mechanical and manufacturing engineering, in that program, you're looking at mechanical systems, ways that objects are manufactured, and you learn a lot of the theory and mathematics behind understanding these systems. And also there's a big focus on design and use of computer-aided design to allow you to design components or design devices. In electronic and computing engineering then, so this focuses on electronics, so learning all of the necessary electronic skills that you need to function as an electronic engineer out in the workplace. Finally then, sustainable systems and energy. So this is, as I said, it's a new program and we're taking our first students into it this year. And this is really looking at how we can apply engineering to bring about more sustainable systems in the world around us. And this is a big focus. It's a really important global problem to try and improve our environment around us. So this sustainable systems and energy degree program is training students in that area, so applying engineering to try and really focus on improving systems and energy systems in the world around us.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Tanya, definitely something that's in demand at the minute from every industry that exists is that focus on sustainable and renewable resources. And thank you so much for that overview of our courses. So as you mentioned earlier, higher level maths is a requirement for these courses. You do have to have some sort of aptitude for maths. Are there any other skills that you can think of that you've witnessed, say, as a lecturer, that you think would come in handy for someone who's interested in engineering? Or what sort of people, like problem solvers, critical thinkers, all the above?
Yeah, definitely all of the above. So in engineering, we talk about the 6 minds of an engineer. So we sometimes think of engineers as just being somebody who's good at maths and good at being able to sit down and do the very analytical side of engineering. But actually engineers need to be a whole lot more than that. So they need to be good at communicating. They need to be good at using language. They need to be good at the problem solving and analytics as well. But they need to function in teams and be able to do a lot more than that. So within the programs, we do we do have a big focus on maths, and maths is one of the entry requirements to get into the programs. But all kinds of things that you will have done at Leaving Cert, all kinds of subjects will really benefit you. So you'll touch on lots of them again during the degree. The sciences are particularly useful. So if you're wondering what subjects you should be choosing or what subjects will be helpful, and people come in with lots of different subjects. So some people will have done engineering at Leaving Cert, lots won't have done engineering, some will have done physics, some will have done biology, some will have done chemistry. So it doesn't really matter once you have the maths requirement, it doesn't really matter what other subjects you have, and they'll all be useful to you. But yeah, I think in terms of a type of person, maybe a problem solver is a good kind of overall kind of theme for the types of people that maybe choose engineering. So somebody who likes to understand and solve problems and has a bit of an interest in sort of design or developing new ideas. So I think that type of person really thrives in the program because there's lots of opportunity for that as you go through the program.
Yeah, that's great to know. And as you mentioned, a lot of those transferable skills that apply, whether it's communication or project management, all comes in underneath the engineering umbrella. So for a student who might be curious about how they're going to learn if they come to DCU to do engineering, I'm sure you can promise them they're not just going to be sitting in a lecture. They will have a lot of practical classes and labs that take place. Do you want to maybe advertise some of those facilities that we have? Because we have pretty much a brand new engineering building now on our Glasnevin campus, which is remarkable.
Yeah, so we do. We've got great facilities. So I suppose at the moment things are a little different because of COVID. So things are a little bit more online than we'd like them to be. But in general, we have a really active campus where students are on campus a lot. We have lots of practical labs. So generally for the different modules that students would study, they'd have some lecture time, and they'd also have tutorial slots where the lecturers will help them to solve problems or talk through some of the aspects of the lecture material. And then there's some practical element to most of the modules as well. So you'd be in the lab physically making something, or you would be doing an experiment to test a theory that you've been learning about in the lectures. And I think that's a really nice part of the course, that there is this practical part. It's not just in a lecture theatre all the time. You have lots of opportunity to try things out with hands-on learning as well.
Exactly. We might throw a question over to Faith now, who has actually had experience, as a student in those new high-tech labs and discovering all these new features. Faith, how have you found that experience in DCU?
Yeah, well, I found it absolutely brilliant. One of the reasons that I came to DCU was because I came on an open day and I saw all the facilities, and I was like in love, and I wanted to go and use all the equipment and go into all the labs and stuff. As Tanya was saying, you do get a good bit of practical experience. You get to go in and build a load of things. And there's kind of like a good project in every year of the course that you get to do. Mm-hmm. And as well, you get to be quite creative with a lot of the solutions, and but at the same time have a lot of support from lecturers and the support staff as well, should you get stuck with anything. So I have found it great so far.
Yeah, that's great. So when you came to the open day, Faith, maybe when you were in 4th, 5th, or maybe even 6th year, did you know that mechatronic was the way that you wanted to go, or how did you arrive at that decision?
Well, actually, I had no idea which engineering I wanted to do. It was kind of one of those things that I knew that I wanted to maybe design some things or kind of go into like problem solving and stuff. But I actually came in through the common entry program. And I didn't actually choose mechatronic engineering till the end of first year after I'd come in, kind of try them all. Because I honestly had no idea when I was coming in. I just knew that I did want to do engineering.
Yeah, so a great opportunity that you were one of those students who maybe wasn't sure the exact strand. Maybe you didn't even get to do it in secondary school. So you kind of get to try everything out for a year and find the area that suits you best. You mentioned some of those projects that you're able to work on over the years. Can you tell us, and for the listeners, some really cool things you were able to work on in the School of Engineering over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so when you're in first year, everyone gets to build an autonomous car. No matter which stream you're in, everyone does the exact same first year, so everyone gets to do this. And you go in, you completely design the electronics, you design the body of the car. You get to go into the manufacturing labs and actually manufacture it all yourself. And then you get to code it up at the end, and it should be able to follow a line or go in a circle and do a turn and a couple little cool things. Then in third year, especially for mechatronics, I found that it was really great for projects because of the fact you got to do both of the kind of big projects in third year. So on the mechanical side, you get to do a product design. It's a device called the Fireman Challenge, and it's supposed to basically climb a ladder with a beaker of water on the back of it and try not to spill the water as it goes up as quick as possible. It is absolutely brilliant. I would recommend anyone to just type into YouTube DCU Fireman Challenge. It's absolutely brilliant, and we have a little competition at the end of the year to see who's can go quickest without spilling the most water.
They sound so cool and so varied, the different kind of things that you can work on. In terms of contact hours, Faith, in the course, for students who are wondering, am I going to be in a lecture 9 to 5 every day? Will it be half days? What is an example of your timetable at the minute?
Well, at the minute, it is a bit different for a couple of reasons. For one, with the current situation of COVID, I don't actually have any hours in the college itself for practical hours, but also the fact that I'm in final year, I have half the amount of modules this semester, and I'm actually working quite a lot on my final year project, researching it and designing things for it, and then in the next couple of weeks, I will be building that up as well. But in general, I would have if this was like a no COVID situation and I had the regular timetable, it was usually I would be in DCU from 9 to 5, but you'd have a variation between lectures, practicals, and tutorials, but then you'd also have some hours in between to actually be able to work on any assignments you have or to do any extra work that you had to do.
And get your other stuff done, and time for sleep and food as well, which is also important. Did you find any time within all those hours to get involved in anything kind of outside of lectures, like clubs and societies or anything like that?
Yeah, so through my time in DCU, I've kind of gone through a couple of different clubs and societies at this stage. In my first couple of years, I was very involved with the DCU Engineering Society. While I was in there, we did a lot of different activities, but I'd say one of the best moments was probably building our own 3D printer with the society. Wow. We got a great discount, and we actually built them as a group. Conor built his own one there as well. I see him smiling there. And it is actually absolutely a brilliant experience because we all built them together, and I've still got mine here beside me, and I'm actually using it for my project now as well. So it's been a great investment.
Wow, that is really cool. We might go over to Conor then next, who I'd say is itching to talk about his 3D printer. But Conor, you are maybe a couple of years ahead of Faith in terms of you've graduated now from mechatronic engineering. So tell me a little bit about where you are today and what you're up to.
Hi Sinead, thanks for having me. Can you just hear me okay before I start?
Can, yeah, crystal clear.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, so I graduated there back in 2019, so I'm kind of 2 years out, kind of a year and a half out. So one of the main reasons kind of I would have looked at DCU for engineering was kind of I was always career focused kind of afterwards. So one of the things kind of DCU would have offered is an intro placement. And for engineering, that kind of was 6 months long. And I ended up going into the ESB. So I was based in ESB International at the time, which was located in Dublin Airport, and I was put on the generation team. So kind of focusing on all generation of power, such as traditional thermal plants, solar, wind, hydro, etc. And from that kind of allowed me to have a good taste of kind of where I think I'd like my career to go. So I ended up coming back to ESB then on the graduate program. And I am now based again on the generation side of the business. I spent my first rotation there once again back into the airport office while before COVID, that is, and then I was working at home. But once again, looking at kind of future power stations that we were designing, once again, future renewable projects as well, and stuff to kind of support our grid, our electricity grid into the future. Now kind of onto my second rotation, I'm now fully based. I'm actually back in the office, which is great, but I'm fully based now in a power station in County Clare. So we're kind of, it's very different work to where I was based, but my work now has gone from design and future planning to kind of dealing with large scale projects and trying to fix large amounts of pieces of equipment and keep them maintained, keep them tested, and to ensure that the plant stays online and can keep generating electricity for the greater Republic of Ireland.
Very important work there by the sounds of things, Conor. You're keeping all of our systems up and going. The reason we can have this Zoom call today, so thank you for that. But amazing that you got to kind of experience ESB International before you even went there as a grad. So that was on your internship. So all of our engineering courses in DCU have an internship built onto them. In third year, you can go on a work placement for 6 months. How did you go about securing that one in particular?
Yeah, so there's different ways of going about it. So there is an intra portal in DCU. So that is kind of like a LinkedIn kind of system where there would be loads of jobs advertised. And it is a proper job process. So you can kind of examine something you think would take your fancy and you attach your CV and apply. That company will then look at your CV and they will call you for interview. And then if you're successful in the interview, they will offer your internship process. Some people get it first time, other people get it on their 10th time. It can depend on the company. They do need to kind of hire you for actual business reasons. Then if the intro portal isn't for you, you can also organize it yourself. So there is an opportunity to kind of travel if you wish in that intro program. So I would have had classmates who went to France for their 6 months. They organized their work placement themselves. They got a job over there and they support themselves while they were over there. But then I personally went through what's called the ESB Into College Challenge. So it's always important, and I always say this when I do these talks, to be getting involved in different extracurricular stuff, whether that's clubs and socks or anything that comes through the door. So the engineering school were running this ESB Into College Challenge, which involved DCU going up against loads of other universities such as Queen's and Trinity and UL, etc. And we were given a kind of a business kind of hackathon kind of event. So it was the uptake of e-cars and e-heating, so looking at electric vehicles. We then came up with a pitch, presented that to a number of senior managers in ESB, and we were very successful. We came into the final 3, I think out of 10 universities. So that then automatically granted me an internship. So I actually didn't have to sit an interview to get that internship, but how one door has opened to many doors because I put myself forward for that college challenge. Now I see it as a career. So, I would highlight to anyone watching today that if you are going into university, definitely get involved as soon as you can, because one little thing can open the door to a very wide range of possibilities.
Absolutely. I mean, that's pretty incredible. You competed for your internship and secured it. So yeah, you didn't have to do the interview stuff. You proved it kind of in person, your abilities, which is fantastic. And I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities that come to students through the School of Engineering by, as you said, getting involved. And I know yourself, you were very involved in clubs and societies in DCU. Do you want to talk about some of that involvement?
Yeah, so once again, university is a different experience for sure. I kind of, you come leaving secondary school knowing everyone. It might be quite a small secondary school, and then you end up going into university, which is such a big scale. I would have sat in the helix on my first day, and they do it in slots. So I was in the slot with 2,000 other people, and I looked around and go, Jesus, I know no one. And how am I going to kind of conquer this massive feat of kind of starting all over again? But clubs and socks are a really good place to meet people with kind of like-minded interests and hobbies. So just some of the examples, and once again, I'm only kind of a drop in a large ocean of clubs and socks. I think we have now over 120 clubs and societies. That number's probably changed since even I've last been in DCU. But I would have joined, for instance, the Snow Sports Society. So I would have gone skiing with 250 other students every year at Christmas time. One of my favorites then was Engineering Society, as Faith was mentioning, building around drones and 3D printers. But my favorite one of all was the DCU Subaqua Club, which was the scuba diving club. So I learned how to scuba dive with DCU. I got my diving license with DCU, and I'm still a member of that club. And we recently got our own boat off the university, and we go traveling all around Ireland, and mainly on the bank holiday weekends to the west of Connemara or the north of Donegal, and go diving on the latest dive we did last year was diving the U-260, which was a Nazi submarine boat that got sank during the war. So, this is all on our doorstep and all possible through university. So, like I said, you have to get out there, get involved, and you'll do stuff that was you never thought was possible. And the best thing about it all, it's mostly funded by the university, so it all makes it affordable for you too.
Amazing. Such incredible opportunities there. And I always find it really encouraging when someone who maybe never had an interest in scuba diving before comes to university, and then all of a sudden they are like almost leading the society and still continuing it after they graduate. And we often get questions at career fairs for students who they're saying, oh, I love engineering, but I also want to do something separate. And they don't really realize that you can often marry the two between a course and a club and society, and really get involved in that way. And I think, as you mentioned, Conor, really creates kind of a well-rounded person. So when you're competing at these competitions or for internships, that you have kind of more than just your degree. Speaking of someone who has left university and has done some incredible things, Lisa, I will bring you into the panel. Thank you for patiently awaiting your turn. Can you tell us a little bit about your story? So you studied in DCU, you've left, you're now CEO of a company. How did that end up happening?
Well, it's been many years since I graduated. So I graduated in 1993, and I have loved listening to the panelists so far. Tanya, I have to say you did a great job. I think I'd like to go back and do a couple of other disciplines myself. So it's a long journey. I will say, though, that I can probably relate a lot, although it's a long time since I graduated. She told me that she would kill me if I told her that but I do have my daughter beside me here, who is in 5th year of school. So,
wow.
And is also possibly interested in engineering. So she's going through that. So I can see the world from both sides at the moment, having been through the journey. But going back to where it started, electronic engineering was the only discipline that was available in DCU when I went to DCU, and I wanted to be an engineer, number one, and I wanted to go to DCU number two. So hence that was the main reason behind me choosing electronic engineering. However, I think I would be very interested in the broad range and, you know, looking at that common entry before picking. So being an engineer is a great thing to have as a qualification and as something, as a foundation for whatever career that you decide to go into. So look, I have a long career. We could spend a long time talking about it, but I worked for 18 years with what was then the biggest company in the world, founded by Thomas Edison, a company called General Electric, GE as it's known. I went in, like Conor, I went in on a graduate program, which was a fantastic thing to do. I worked for GE across multiple different disciplines, but also I worked for them all over the world. And one of the things that I always say to people who are considering doing engineering is that it is a qualification that you can take anywhere in the world with you. So if you think you might like to go and travel or experience different cultures, different businesses, having an engineering degree is a great passport for that. During my career, although I worked in different countries, different businesses within GE, I was very specialized in process improvement and really understanding, so solving big business problems by using a very process orientated, systematic approach to solving that problem. And those problems were very varied. They weren't, they were business problems. So much more aligned, probably, with what the new degree that I'm a little bit aware of, that's coming in. Problems like that. So that was my career, long time with GE until I founded my own business. I can relate again to some of the new developments because most of our employees actually were graduates of DCU, and typically at PhD or postdoctoral level, because we design and develop IoT devices that do continuous monitoring of pathogens in the air. And Conor, I think he was the year ahead of you because he graduated last year. Mikey Gordon is actually working on, he has done the mechanical and the mechatronic design, I say, of our system for doing continuous monitoring of COVID-19 in the air, a product that we've just deployed our first prototype on. So,
wow, what a marvelous CV there, and a journey that you've been on as well. And maybe you didn't even expect to kind of go from engineering to kind of working in businesses, but it's just another example of how broad really that sort of degree is. And once you have those basic skills, you can kind of end up navigating throughout. So in the current company that you're in New Wave Solutions, you mentioned you would be hiring some engineers and things like that. What other careers would you say, whether in that specific company or just that you've witnessed, that people in engineering can go into? So you can go in, as you said, to become a CEO, you can go into what Conor's doing, like renewable resources. So anyone's free to hop in here, but Lisa, maybe what other careers have you seen maybe some of your classmates go into, or people that you're working with now?
Okay, so look, it's incredibly broad. And one of the things that, Conor, you mentioned that you were very focused on business. I was the same when I chose engineering. I mean, I've always been very mathematical process orientated. But when I looked at people in business that I admired, and at the time then, and I know this is maybe I'm the only person on the call, given my age, who would know, but the CEO of General Electric, it was a man called Jack Welch, unbelievable CEO, but he was a chemical engineer and he did a PhD in chemical engineering as his background. But when I looked at people who very successful in business, there's a huge proportion of those people at the time when I was looking at it who had engineering as a background. But the careers are incredibly broad. You can be designing, developing, doing the stuff that Faith has mentioned. Those type of projects, tremendous experience for bringing in to the work you do. Again, the experience you pick up on Intra, another big reason why I chose DCU. It's just fantastic to have that type of experience, give you a taste of real work life. But it is really, I would say, an engineering degree is a fantastic foundation, because you will be, whatever you do, you know, that you can do many things, but as an engineer, you tend to be bringing solutions to problems. So rather than going in and, you know, and doing something for one person at a time, you're developing a solution that can solve problems, that can fix it for the many. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Absolutely, and comes right back to all those transferable skills that I think most people have mentioned throughout their little talk, is that you really can take this degree wherever you want and kind of carve your own path, and you will have the necessary skills to go into pretty much whichever industry you want. So just a reminder for anyone listening in, there is a Q&A function for people who do want to get in touch. If you do have any questions for our panelists, please do let us know before the end of the session. I might open this next question to the panel, and just as a nice bit of advice or some tips for a student who's listening. As engineering students, graduates, professors working in industry, do you have any advice for someone who might enter an engineering course in DCU in first year, you know, whether from your own experience or just something you've witnessed over time? Anyone can take that now. Not everyone at once.
I'll go first. Yeah, no, just obviously, as I kind of mentioned before, it's to get involved. I think Lisa really summed up engineering really, really well. You know, it is an amazing degree, and it can definitely take you places. I would say to anyone who's watching, engineering is definitely been a very rewarding kind of path for myself so far. But it definitely came at its challenging times as well, which is quite important to note. You know, Faith would have touched on it there. The hours can be long, and it is a very intense kind of 4-year course, and maybe compared to other other courses in terms of hour wise. So you will do a good amount of hours. So it's just to be prepared for that. You know, in terms of maths as well, it definitely is important to have the high level maths. But at the same time, if you're not getting like A's and B's, and that's not something to worry about either. I wouldn't have been doing amazing at maths at my Leaving Cert level, but because then all I was using was maths at my university level, it meant that my maths skill grew and got better as well. So that's maybe something to keep in mind too. Challenging for sure, but overall rewarding. Get involved, and yeah, you're going into a good career that can take you anywhere for sure.
Thank you, Conor. That's a great piece of advice. Anyone else want to hop in before we finish up? I don't see any questions coming in there. I think you've managed to cover everything, every possible question that a student could have, but feel free to chip in with any advice or tips. Faith, anything for you? You know, you're almost going to graduate. What would you love to have known when you were in 6th year that you know now?
I'd kind of say don't be afraid to kind of get to know people. I found that one of the biggest resources that I've actually had in college so far is my classmates, any of the support staff, any of the lecturers, and it's purely from just having a chat with them every so often. You never know when you're actually going to need them, or if you're going to need any help with anything, and even just having a chat with someone can sometimes click some things in your head or help things make sense. And I found that it's been definitely one of the greatest things that I found from DCU.
I might just echo that as well, Faith. So yeah, definitely getting involved and reaching out. So, you know, when you start in 1st year, often people can be a bit intimidated and they don't know where to go for help if they're not sure about something. But the staff in DCU, they're really approachable and they really want to help you. And we have dedicated 1st year coordinators that are there to answer all your questions and kind of navigate you through 1st year. And there's also lots of other support services in DCU. So there's career services, and there's student advice services, and all of that is there to help you as well. So if you are feeling worried about anything, there's lots of support there, so don't be afraid to reach out.
That's great advice. Thank you, Tanya. So we have a couple of questions coming in, and feel free to hop in if you would like to answer. So the first one that we have is, are there many opportunities to study abroad? I know you can study abroad, especially once you've graduated, but Tanya, you might want to cover, is there options to kind of study abroad within these degrees in DCU?
So there isn't really an official study abroad semester or anything within engineering, but there are opportunities there. So you can take up Erasmus opportunities, and we have a coordinator that will help you if you want to go and take a semester somewhere else. There's also the intra-placement. You can go and do an intra-placement abroad as well. So there are some opportunities there. Usually the students would sort of search out their own contact maybe, or they might kind of lead it themselves rather than it being an official part of the program that everybody does. But yeah, there are plenty of opportunities there if you wish to take them up.
That's great. Thank you, Tanya. I don't know, maybe Faith, if you want to take this one that came in, and the person asked, what are the lecture, tutorial and practical hours excluding self-guidance studies? So I know it's maybe slightly different with COVID, but maybe if you could think back to the other years, would you have an idea of that breakdown?
I think in total, depending semester to semester, it kind of varies, but you'd have about 30 hours total kind of contact weeks between your lectures, tutorials and practicals. I'd say about 5 to 6 of those would be tutorial hours. And then you have, depending on the semester, again, you could have 10 hours of practical, you could have down to 2 hours of practical, but it does kind of just depend week to week.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Faith. I hope that was very well answered. So another question, again, anyone on the panel hop on. Someone has asked, for someone who hasn't done physics or engineering for the Leaving Cert, is it difficult to catch up and understand things in 1st year?
I might just hop on this one. I didn't do engineering when I was in secondary school. And I found that I was at no disadvantage. I did get taught everything from scratch that I may have learned, that I would have learned in engineering in secondary school. And then in terms of your science subjects, we actually have a great module in your 1st year where you touch on a bit of life sciences, which is a bit like biology, chemistry and physics. So they don't actually expect anyone to have any experience in those areas.
Thanks, Faith. Yeah, I suppose the rule of thumb is generally, if it isn't an entry requirement, then you're going to be taught from scratch, and as if you never heard of the thing before. So that's comforting to know. Yeah, do you have anything to add there, Tanya?
Yeah, just I suppose we're conscious that people come in with all sorts of different subject backgrounds, so there is that grounding in first year, and that's one of the advantages of having this common first year, is that we can bring everybody up to the same level. So I didn't do engineering at Leaving Cert either, and I definitely didn't feel at a disadvantage because of that. Yeah, so I think whatever experiences you have, you'll find some bits you'll know a bit from Leaving Cert about, and some bits you won't, and then you'll, by the end of first year, you'll be up to speed on everything and ready to head into second year with all the knowledge, the same as the rest of your classmates.
Full steam ahead. That's great. Thank you, Tanya. And then just one more question that's come in. Again, guys, keep them coming if you do have anything that you want to ask our panelists. Maybe, Tanya, you might have advice for this. Someone just asked, what are the best subjects for engineering? So maybe this could be a TY. This could be someone in fourth year who is considering subjects for next year.
Yeah, so as we said, the maths is a requirement, but apart from that, any of the sciences would be useful. So physics is a good one, or chemistry, particularly if you're interested in the biomedical engineering side, then the biology, doing biology at Leaving Cert is a useful one to do. Applied maths is a useful one as well, if you've been interested in doing that. And then, so engineering at Leaving Cert can be useful as well. It'll give you some of the kind of grounding in some of the engineering subjects. But yeah, in general, a science subject is a good help.
It's a good help. That's great. Thank you. I don't see any more questions coming in, but we'll leave it another minute or so if anyone does want to ask anything in particular. While we have our panelists before they go off and enjoy the rest of their evening. But thank you again so much for coming on in your spare time to help out with this, because it's going to be a great resource for students. You know, normally we'd be out in person at these events and there'd be higher options and BT Young Scientists and all, you know, even Engineers Week. It's Engineers Week this week, and I'm sure no one would be in their office at this time. You'd be out and about and speaking at things and doing projects, but it all has to be online. So hopefully this is a way that students can still get that, you know, valuable information, even though it may be virtual. So I don't see any more questions coming in. I'll give it another couple of seconds. But as I said, I think that was such a comprehensive overview. That's such a wonderful panel that I think we had those questions covered before they were even thought of. So thank you so much.
I might just add one additional comment. I know it was something that I was a bit worried about when I was picking engineering, and I was afraid I might be the only girl in my class. And it's good to see a nice gender representation here, but definitely there's lots of girls in engineering. So if that's something that you're concerned about, don't be. We do have a good mix of males and females. So don't be worried about that.
And I'm sure kind of strengthening over the years as well, you know, that balance is hopefully kind of weighing out a bit more evenly. For anyone who maybe is watching this back, who isn't live, if you do have any questions for the panelists, you can get in touch with studenthelp@dcu.ie, which is the kind of general inbox for any queries in relation to you know, courses at DCU. So if you do want to ask one of our panelists something in particular, maybe we could pass on the email address or anything like that. But you still can get in touch even if you haven't seen the live version. So I think I will call it at that. There doesn't seem to be any more questions coming in, and as I said, a very comprehensive overview of everything. Thank you so much to our panelists for coming along and providing fantastic insight into engineering, not only in DCU but just in the world. And thank you again to our attendees for coming along, and I hope that was able to kind of give you some very valuable information in terms of making a decision about coming to DCU in the future. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Engineers Week and the rest of your evening, and we will see you back here next week where we will cover our physics courses in DCU. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks very much, and best of luck to everyone with their choices ahead.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.